Hello, Corey here. Thank you for joining me. I just want to remind you that as I make this video, it is actually December 1st right now. It is in the morning, and Bach Scholars and Well-Rounded Pianist Black Friday sale 30% off is still going until midnight tonight. So if you haven't done it yet, please do it. You'll be very thankful for it. You can get 30% off yearly and lifetime memberships at the Well-Rounded Pianist. I will be your personal professor. Actually, just yesterday, I just made, what did I make? I made, I think, 5 tutorials yesterday, which I'm still going to upload to the Well-Rounded Pianist. So I'm always making new tutorials. In fact, I just made, because it's December, it's early December, I'm doing a series of Nutcracker Suite videos from some of the famous pieces that are playable on piano, transcribed by Tchaikovsky. So if you want to learn get some in-depth tutorials, super slow videos, and also explaining videos on how to play these pieces and others, many, many more, go over to the Well-Rounded Pianist. And I would love to see you there, and I would love to teach you. So I am sitting here, I have some free time. It's a little bit cold here in Florida, so it's good flannel shirt weather. I got here a nice fuzzy little blanket on my feet, keeping my feet warm. And sometimes our dog Cookie likes to come and sleep on here as well. The purpose of this video is to discuss John Dowland. John Dowland. And I've made several videos already of some of my arrangements and transcriptions of John Dowland's music, his lute music transcribed for piano. I've had some really great responses for that, and don't worry, it's around the corner. So I'm working heavily on these. See all these little yellow stickers? I've spent the last excuse me, I spent the last couple days, actually I spent almost the complete morning on Sunday morning going through this book here. This is called The Collected Lute Music of John Dowland, and it is typically it's notated with lute or guitar tablature, whatever that is. I don't know what it is. Some kind of tablature. And then I guess lute tablature. And then on the top is a very, very accurate piano transcriptions of exactly what Dowland wrote. The problem is when you play them on piano, well, there's no problem really, they're all great. But when you play them on piano or you want to adapt them for piano, really, oftentimes, I mean, if you want to make something sound typically piano, you need to do things with it. You need to like add octaves, you need to add arpeggios, you need to, so it's not a literal kind of thing. And I want to show you in this video what I'm doing with this particular piece. I've been messing around or experimenting with this piece now for the last day or so. This is called, if you have this book here, The Collected Lute Music of John Dowland, it is number 57. It is called Mrs. Vaux's Jig. Mrs. Vaux's Jig, number 57 here in this book. And I think it's a delightful piece, and I just want to share with you some techniques you can use. I want to teach you how to do this. Okay, so I don't want to show off, I don't want to perform for you my arrangement. That's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show you the kinds of things, the kinds of techniques I use when I do my arrangements. And then if you're a pianist and you're interested in doing this kind of thing, if you're interested in doing your own arrangements of things, this will give you some ideas on what to do and how to go about doing that. So this is just intended to be sort of just an informal kind of instructional video on how to go about doing this kind of thing. You know, so you can break out of the mold of just doing everything literal, exactly the way it looks on the page, and doing some creative things with it. And that's what you're supposed to do as a pianist. So we're taking this music that was written in the late 1500s in Elizabethan England for lute. and we're playing it on piano. Now, we don't want to make a piano sound like a lute. That's not what you want to do. So it has actually nothing to do with lute. We could just throw the lute away. It doesn't have anything to do with the lute. It has to do with the instrument we have here, the piano, and what we can do with this. So one thing you have to get out of your mind is literalism. Literalism really just kills music. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to play this literally, exactly the way it's written on the page. Okay? It's in 6/8 time. That's beautiful. Well, let me do that again. This is exactly what Dowland wrote. It's in the key of C minor, by the way. Also, I don't know, I haven't figured out or I haven't really researched keys yet, but I'm finding that a lot of these are transcribed to other keys and things. So I'm just playing them as they're here in this book. This is in C minor. So let me do this again. It could be a little faster than that too. It's a jig. I mean, jigs are usually somewhat fast. So let's speed it up a little bit. That's more like it, I think. Da, da, da. Then there's 16th notes that come in. A lot of 16ths that come in later. Da, 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 da. So you don't want to go too fast because the 16ths will become too hurried. Now, you play this literally, and then you think, well, I'm making a book on John Dowland's arrangements. Do I want to just rehash this literally, or do I want to do something with it? I want to do something with it. Okay, let's do something with it. So let's take this chord and just, we're going to put a little arpeggio in there. C, G, C, a little broken chord there. And then on the third beat, that 8th note, you don't need to replay that beat. You can just play the melody note, and then you can do another rolled chord in the left hand. So instead of, you can go, and notice on the second one, I'm even expanding it. It's not just going to an open G chord. It's going to like a G minor. So it gives it a richness here if you add that B flat. You can follow that pattern down. Now I'm doing an E flat arpeggio. These are really important notes here. The E flat, F, G, those 16th notes leading up to the G, those are important. So you don't want to leave those out. There are some notes that you can leave out. Other notes you just cannot leave out because they're very important notes. So if you have extraneous notes, extra notes in the harmony somewhere, you have the freedom of leaving some notes out. But others you can't, like that. So let me play this whole phrase. Now, notice how the last chord is way down here instead of up here. Now I'm going to play the original again. The enhanced version. I love that sound. The piano has a really beautiful sound in this range here. And you can get a lot of this beautiful sound in here by going a little bit lower with your right hand, playing in the bass clef here with your right hand. It sounds really beautiful with this stuff. Now let's go on. I'm going to play literally. It's good. I don't really want to do a whole lot of changing here, but what I probably would want to do is at least, I might do a few minor things like maybe hold some notes down, but the main thing you want to do here is double the bass line, double the octaves. So instead of playing just a thin bass line here, then you can double the bass line and make it sound richer. So it sounds like, sorry, let me do it normal again. This is in its original. Now the enhanced version. Ooh, I like that major right there. I love that. So do you hear how much better that sounds? It's richer, it's fuller. You have to do things like this to adapt it to the piano. Well, you don't have to. I mean, you could leave it in its original state and just make it a sort of intermediate kind of piano piece, but you want to do something, I want to do something special with them and not just rehash them on piano. I want to do something special. I want to make them sound like they were written for piano. And I want to make them sound like they're kind of improvised and not just all strict. That's sort of my goal here. So I'm going to play those 8 measures, or I'm going to play that much. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 8 measures. The enhanced version. Renaissance Bach, actually, Renaissance Bach. Now I'm going to go further. Now I'm going to play the next phrase, I'm going to play literally as Dowland wrote. Very simple phrase. I'm going to play that again. Melody. You know, in this next to the last measure there, I know that he wrote here in this particular piece, it's 1/4 but in another piece that's like the precursor to this piece, it's an 1/8 quarter. So I'm actually changing it here. So feel free to change things also. If you do arrangements of composers' music, don't feel like you have to be a slave to every single detail on the page. Just do what you want to do. They can't arrest you. No one's going to ticket you. No one's going to give you a citation for you changed a note in Dowland, or you changed a note somewhere. Feel free to change anything you want, because these are your arrangements. I mean, you know, I try to stay pretty close to the original as possible, but you need to experiment and do some improvisation. So let me just zip this up a little bit, and I'm going to play this again in its original state. That's what I want to do. Okay, whenever you have, like, I discovered whenever you have 16th like that, that's a perfect opportunity to harmonize it like that. When you're harmonizing things, you can do it either in thirds or sixths. So I'm taking this and I'm harmonizing that. In measure 10, you have that. I'm just harmonizing it. So I have, instead of, I have much better. Now what I do, now, I don't know, my imagination just told me I want to go down with a line there. So instead of going, instead of doing that, I want to do this. So I'm adding sort of some arpeggios. So arpeggios there in the left hand to keep the rhythm kind of flowing like that. So let me try that a little faster. There. I don't know if I like it there. You can do that. Or if you want, you can even do it there too. I might do that. I might not. Now, you know, I love this piece because it goes these little 4-measure phrases. Now, what comes next? I'm going to play this next 4-measure phrase in its original. That's under tempo. I guess up to tempo would be more like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what I'm going to do is, I don't know what led me to this, but I just earlier this morning I started putting sort of this kind of Alberti kind of bass in there. I know it's not stylistically correct. There was no such thing as like those classical style Alberti basses, but it's not really an Alberti bass. But it's sort of a broken chord in the left hand that it doesn't seem like it really fits the style, but it sounds great and I love it. So I'm going to do it. So also what I do, instead of, I play, I double it in thirds. And then here, instead of, I go like that. It's technically harder, especially at a fast tempo, but it adds so much to it if you can harmonize things like that. So always look for places where you can harmonize in either thirds or sixths. That's the typical interval that you want to harmonize in. So let me play it slowly in the enhanced version. So basically in the left hand I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have a pretty fast jump there, but I like that. I kind of like that sound. Let me try that again. Sort of very light and classical sounding. Now, okay, so I'm going to play that phrase in its original state now. grade 3 piano piece. Now you're going to turn it into like maybe a grade 6 or 7 piano piece. Now, to break up that monotony, or not monotony, but to sort of break up that pattern, in the next 4-measure phrase, I stop. I don't do all that in the left hand anymore. I go straight back to eighth notes. So in the next 4-measure phrase, it sounds like this, the original. Ooh, I like that cadence there. That's the original. And my enhanced version is something like this. I need to stop on the C chord first. I want to just do it in 4-measure phrases. Let me do that again. So notice that I went back to eighth notes, and then when I came sort of to the cadence, I added some 16th notes back in the left hand to give it some energy, to energize the rhythm a little bit and to make it interesting. So it's not just, you're not just playing eighth notes through the whole thing. It can be really boring, especially on piano. I mean, I wouldn't say it's boring, but you know, it just sounds like a grade 3 piano piece. So if you play these as is, as written, you're playing basically grade 3 or grade 4 piano pieces. That's not what I want. I want rich, romantic style piano pieces. So, so now what comes next? So I ended this in measure 20. If you have the score here, so I have an arpeggio going on, and then I continue. Arpeggio on C, then an A flat, and an A flat arpeggio there. And then I love that little cadence. And then that's one of my favorite places, that little major. Okay, now I'm going to play this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6-measure phrase, kind of unusual. I'm going to play the 6-measure phrase now original. Now I'm going to play it enhanced. You see, it's just, it's so enriching to do this. I love doing this kind of thing, and I think you will too. If you've never done this kind of thing, you need to do it, because this is kind of a cross between improvisation and playing with the notes. You're not just making everything up off the spot. You're using this as a guide. You're adding to it. You're taking a little away. You're changing a little bit, but you're pretty much conforming to what he has here. It's a great vehicle for learning improvisation. I am not a great, I don't even think I'm a great improviser. I would not consider myself really a great improviser on piano. I'm not a great jazz pianist. Of course, jazz is not the only style you can improvise in, but when I think of improvisation, I think of, jazz improv. I'm pretty shitty at jazz improv, really, quite honestly. But this is kind of classical improvisation. I really enjoy classical improvisation because you can, use just your standard major and minor chords and some diminished and some augmented here and there. But you can employ arpeggios, broken chords. Okay, so let me stop talking. Let me finish this up here. So the next phrase is similar to the one we did before. Six measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, six measure phrase. Here it's original state. Ooh, let me do that again. This is the original, what Dowland wrote. I just adore this passage. I really do. I just love this. I think Dowland was such a great composer. I don't know what it is. It just sounds. I was playing another piece in here. I won't discuss it today, and a very contrapuntal piece, very chromatic. It sounded just like Bach, and it sounded as good as Bach, but in a different language. It was as good as Bach contrapuntally, but it was like Bach was renaissanced. It's like Bach all of a sudden is turned into Renaissance music. But he's different than Bach. So that's just sort of a rough analogy of the styles. Okay, so I'm gonna play what I just did, but I'm going to enhance it. And I'm gonna play it slowly enhanced first. So listen to that. The original does this. The enhanced does this. Much, much richer. So what I'm doing is I'm just simply holding, instead of just playing this one line here, I'm sort of adding this, a fourth and then a third. But I'm holding my thumb down, so it creates a more rich sound. A little pedal, and then a nice rich C minor chord. Where he has just one note, I have a rich C minor chord. That's the thing you need to do. So sometimes when they just have one note, or maybe an open fifth perhaps, you can fill it in with a whole chord. Maybe some other times you wouldn't want to do that. So it depends on the case, the situation. This last strain here, these last six measures are especially pleasing to my ears because of some harmonizations I've added. So let me show you what I'm doing. I'm playing like before, I'm sort of doing it in thirds instead of that, I'm going, actually, yeah, the first time I'm going, and instead of, I go, I double it in six, and then instead of just one note and measure 25, he goes, it's like a two-part invention. I play a full G minor chord there. And then I have a sixth leading into this sixth. Now listen to this. This is one of my favorite parts. He writes this. Really nice bass line. And I do this. I put that here. So I take that bass line, I bring it up an octave, and I harmonize it with a D below. So instead of, I go, instead of, I do after that. Okay, so he doesn't write a repeat sign here, but I repeat the last 6 measures an octave higher in the right hand, and then I do some more 16ths in the left hand. I do these big broken chords like this to keep the energy flowing. So instead of now in the repeat I do this. Isn't that cool? So I do that. I love that. Let me do that again. Also, I invert the last melody in the end. So instead of going, I go. So I invert it actually, and I harmonize it. So here it is. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to play for you what I have so far. I haven't even written anything down. So this is another thing. Another thing I would urge you to do is just mess around a little bit, improvise, mess around for a day or two on the piece, get it into your fingers, into your mind. Then, when you feel like writing it down into your music software, do that. But don't write it down too early, because you might stumble across new ideas and things. So really formulate it well in your head first before you go and you try to write it down on paper or on your software. So let me play the whole thing in the enhanced version, and I don't know, maybe you'll enjoy it. So here we go. Mrs. Vaux's Jig. That's nice. I like that. That's not going to be exactly the way I write it down on the paper, because I'll probably discover things, little details I won't want to do, or maybe I might want to add. But this, in general, is how I go about working on things, doing my arrangements. I want to teach this to you. So I want you to do your own arrangements. If you're a pianist, you need to do this kind of thing just for creativity purposes. Just be creative. Find some music that's not written for piano, any kind of music, maybe music for guitar, for lute, for orchestra, something like that. And see if you can see if you can arrange it for dog just cookie just came here. See if you can arrange it for piano, and make it sound like romantic piano, like make it sound like you're improvising something and you're doing something with it. I think that this is great for creativity. So thank you for joining me today, and stay tuned for more videos like this in the future.